So I will just welcome you all on the virtual CME on the platform of this. I'm Vijay Chaudhary. I'm going to host your this kind of meeting, and on behalf of JB Chemicals, I welcome you all on this virtual CME with this Tuesday evening. And as we discussed every time, we will come across with the different kind of topics with the senior doctors, which can be helpful for the every doctors for their day-to-day practices. And today, if you see the scenario post this pandemic, I think. Majority doctors were dealing with the wound healings will be facing always difficulties. So today we have taken a topic of managing clinical biofilms, the real challenge in wound healing. I think biofilm is the most hurdle things usually we face during our practices. And luckily today we have with us one of the senior doctor, Dr. J.C. Shekhar. I think Dr. J.C. Shekhar name is known to everyone. One of the senior doctors who is practicing quite a couple of more than 2 decades. Before I hand over the session, just a brief introduction about Dr. J.C. Shekhar. Doctor has completed undergraduation from Madurai Medical College in 1982. Started his practice in December 1983 and running a 20-bedded primary care rural nursing home at Vadamadurai near Dindigal. The hospital is equipped with computerized X-ray, fully automatic clinical lab, and spirometry. Running a totally dedicated diabetic education, treatment, prevention of complications clinic with all basic investigations and diabetic foot clinic. Doctor completed fellowship course in clinical diabetology in 2005 and fellowship course in clinical endocrinology in 2008, conducted by IMA, Tamil Nadu State Branch, and also Doctor, a member of RSSDI. Routinely attends national and state conference in diabetes, faculty in various diabetic conferences, delivers lectures on diabetes related topics in Dindigal Diabetes Club and IMA branches of Dindigal, and even also Mission Hospital in and around Dindigal. Doctor award winning president IMA Dindigal branch 2009 and 2010. Convener and Honorable Secretary of Club Pulmonale Dindigal, conducting monthly meetings for doctors since 2014. Honorable Finance Secretary of the Diabetics Club of Dindigal since February 2012. Doctor also been a part of many CMEs, national and internationals, and given a different lectures on different topics. So just hand over the session to Dr. J.C. Shekhar. Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Vijay. Am I audible? My slides are visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's great. First of all, I welcome all of you, all the participants. It's my great pleasure to be here with you this evening and talk to you on an important aspect of wound healing. I thank JB Chemicals people, my friends from JB Chemicals, for inviting me to give this talk. And I thank every one of you, all the participants, for your time and your presence. It's great to be with you this evening and hope we spend this in a very useful manner. Once my talk is over, you can ask me questions. You can type in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and then you can ask the questions. I'll be ready to answer them happily. We all know that wound healing is both a science and an art. Right from the time when the species evolved as a living being in the world, wounds had been there and they have been healing regularly. And even when the Homo sapiens came, wounds were the very commonest thing that had happened. In spite of so many million years of old science, it's surprising that there's no separate branch of medicine which is called as wound healing. Whoever treats the wound, whoever faces the wound, treats the wound. A surgeon who makes a wound treats a general practitioner who sees the wound, sutures and treats it. A pediatrician, same way. And even the nurses, MNAs, everybody treats the wound. It's everybody's game. And to apply on the wounds, it's everybody's their own whims and fancies. We know, right from chili powder to turmeric powder to so many oils and honey and whatnot. You name it, you have it in the external application of the wounds. And everybody's own fads. In fact, when I was doing my junior residency in surgery in JIPMA way back in 1983, our unit chief, Dr. Satya Prakash in JIPMA, his fad was to apply only normal saline to the wound. He will apply a sterile gauze over the wound and keep on pouring normal saline on and off every 3 to 4 times a day. That's all, no other dressings. And if the discharge gets greenish, he used acetic acid for that. And the patient were sent home with a non-sterile bottle and sterile gases. That's what he used. And still the wounds were healing even at that time. But things have changed now. In the past 3 to 4 decades, whereas wound groups have come from all over the world, and they're giving us very clear directions of how to manage the wounds. It's a beautiful thing. There are various groups. Even in India, it's there. There's a separate group or working group for diabetic foot ulcers for diabetes. Every branch, every state, every country has their own wound groups, which recommend a proper way of treating the wounds. Once they have come, we are treating wounds in a more specific and more scientific way. And these of biofilms also a recent entry in the past 2 to 3 decades. This has come, and the picture which you see on the screen right now, over which my name is imposed, a beautiful 3D picture. It's a 3D electron microscope picture of the biofilms. It's so beautiful to see. I'll be showing you more pictures during the course of my lecture, and but they are so pathological. They increase the morbidity of the patient to a great extent. So we'll see in the next 30-40 minutes, I'll be talking to you about what are biofilms, why they are important, how they interfere with the wound healing, and what best we can do to avoid them. Yes, now we go to the topics. This we know I'll be talking about only the chronic wounds. Wounds, as you know, they are acute and chronic. Acute wounds, best thing is to dress up the wound, clean a decent coverage, keep them from getting infected and treat them accordingly. That's what with the rest, the wound heals. But chronic wounds is always a problem. This chart we have seen so many times, right from the undergraduate days, so many beautiful pictures of a venous ulcer, an arterial ulcer, a neuropathic ulcer, a traumatic ulcer, and a malignant ulcer. And all these things, they have the different ways of treatment. For a venous ulcer, you should apply a compression bandage. For arterial ulcer, you should remove the compression. For a neuropathic ulcer, you should offload the foot. For a traumatic ulcer, you should treat it in the way it needs to be. And malignant ulcer is entirely different. This you know about it. But one common feature which underlines all these ulcers is the biofilms. And what are they? So my outline of the presentation will be, I'll be starting with challenging case presentations. Then I'll go about the wound pathophysiology, the new concepts which have arisen in the wound pathophysiology. I'll be talking on wound management, the newer avenues, and the complicated case discussions. And then I'll finish up the summary. So this is case number 1. It's a non-healing ulcer on the lower right leg. Case presentation is very clear. It's a 52-year-old male, is undernourished. There's past history of hepatitis C and the deep vein thrombosis. 3 years previously, he's a drug addict, presented with extensive ulceration on the right lower leg. It's quite a large wound, 25 to 18 centimeter, malodorous wound with thick, dark slough and several areas of hard eschar with purulent discharge. பார்க்கவே ரொம்ப கஷ்டமா இருக்கிற புண்ணு இது. It's totally locally by GP with topical dressings and ointments with limited improvement. And what could be the reason for non-healing? This old person is undernourished, which is a very important thing. The past hepatitis is there. There's deep vein thrombosis will lead to the problem. Is a drug addict. All these things are against the wound healing. Now, what could be the reason? The next case is a chronic pressure ulcer on the base of the left heel. Is an 85-year-old female patient presented with a non-healing pressure ulcer on the base of the left heel for 10 weeks. At presentation, the wound measured 3.3 to 2.5 centimeter, comprised of 90% of slough with moderate exudate and peri-wound maceration. And repeated debridement was done and dressed with povidone iodine. However, slough reoccurred with no signs of healing. Pressure ulcer is a big thing. Unless you offload the foot, this is not going to heal. And what do you do now? What topical dressing you will go for in this patient? This case number 3, it's a non-healing wound again. His case presentation is a 55-year-old diabetic male presented with a large wound, slough and purulent discharge. HbA1c was 11.2, which indicates is very poor diabetic control. BP is 140/92. Serum creatinine is more than 1.5. This is on CKD is already sitting. Diabetic kidney disease is already there. History of excessive alcohol consumption, smoking, and history of uncontrolled sugar and on insulin for the past 5 years. Treatment received, so short debridement was done for the patient. Is the right thing to do. Treated with local antibiotics like mupirocin, which is a very strong and good topical application for cream. Systemic antibiotics were also tried. It's vancomycin for 7 days. Then the wound size increased with no sense of improvement. Why should this happen? What's your opinion for the treatment failure in this case? The fourth is infected traumatic wound, a case presentation of 42-year-old male presented with a non-healing wound with extensive slough and exudate. HbA1c was 12.3, which is really high. Diabetic of 7 years duration. It was treated locally for a month with no improvement. The revised treatment plan was debridement was done. swab was sent for culture sensitivity. Antibiotics as per the culture sensitivity given for 1 week. It was dressed with silver dressings. However, no improvement observed. Why? And it's another non-healing ulcer. The ulcer looks very pitiable. It's going for gangrenous. You could see it. It's a 45-year-old female presented with just 45-year-old, so rather middle-aged female only. The non-healing wound of more than 3 months duration, with patches of thick eschar and slough and excessive exudate. Patient was a diabetic since past 8 years. She developed deep necrotic tissue with chronic infection. She has a tumor in the leg. It was left untreated and led to a chronic ulcer. Previous treatment, treated locally for a month with no improvement. Papinuria and topical mipiracin showed no improvement. And after 10 days, 2 dressings with nano-silver showed only 10% wound reduction. So what do you suspect? So the first picture I showed you, you've seen all types of wound. We've seen a neuropathic wound. We've seen a venous ulcer. We've seen arterial ulcer. We are seeing it now. We've seen traumatic ulcer. Everything we see, and all these things they don't go for healing. So primary reason for causing non-healing of previously shown in cases is it might be polymicrobial infection or non-selection of appropriate topical and systemic antibiotics. It could be a reason. It can be poor vascularization of the wound, or the patient-related factors like poor immunity, hygiene, and nutrition. What could be it? Or it can be none of the above. There's no voting pad now. Anyway, I'll go through it. The result, the answer is none of the above. Why? What's the underlying reason for all this non-healing is the main culprit for non-healing of wounds is biofilm. And what's biofilm? A biofilm is a major concern in healing of chronic wounds. In fact, you should be surprised to know, as per the Professor Gregory Schultz, director of the Institute of Wound Research at the University of Florida, he says 4 in 5 chronic wounds contain biofilms. They are often not identified and results in ineffective treatment, which 4 out of 5 chronic wounds contain biofilm. And what's a biofilm? It's a diverse microbial colony embedded in a thick, slimy barrier of sugars like glycocalyx, proteins, and water produced by themselves. They create a colony by themselves, and they surround themselves with the secretions, and they live comfortably there. Barrier protects the microorganisms from external threats like host defenses, antimicrobial therapy, and both topical and systemic, they are resistant to that. So biofilm hijacks the wound healing from you. And biofilm composition is mainly as a 3D mosaic consortia of microbes, which I already told you, which organize the first picture slide. I could have seen the 3D mosaic consortia of microbes, which organize within an extracellular polymer or glycocalyx called the extracellular polymeric substance, EPS, with interspersed water channels. Majority of the biofilm's volume, 80 to 85%, is comprised of exopolymer, and the remaining 15 to 20% consisting of microorganisms. There's high content of water in biofilm contributes to the challenge of its observation, and this exopolymer, EPS, collapses on the bacterial surface during dehydration. This article is as late as 2070 microorganisms. The extracellular polymer substance needs a special mention in these. The biofilm comprises of complex tertiary structure of sessile communities of 1 or more species of bacteria embedded within a matrix of EPS. The EPS is mainly composed of water, as I already told you. 85% of it is only water. It also has polysaccharides, it has DNA and other substances secreted by the embedded bacteria, and also by the substances scavenged from the host. It takes the water excretion from the host, that also is embedded in this EPS. Thus, it's important to appreciate that all the building blocks of the wound biofilm are ultimately derived from the wound bed itself, from the wound bed and the skin, not from any external. The wound bed and skin is enough, and a few bacteria will be enough to form a biofilm. Further, cell lysis and subsequent local decomposition of the EPS matrix creates new pores and channels that improve nutrient access. Mainly the components of EPS are, as I already told, polysaccharides is one. It gives mechanical strength to the EPS, to the biofilm. Proteins in the EPS, they give mechanical strength. It gives adherence to the biofilm, detachment and virulence to the biofilm. eDNA, it gives mechanical strength, adherence, antimicrobial and genetic transfer happens in due to the eDNA. Water, which is the maximum part of the EPS, it has source of ions and compounds in solution. And biosurfactants are also there. They adhere the biofilms to the surface, and they also help in detachment sometimes. So what are the steps in biofilm development? Biofilm development can be divided into several key steps, including attachment, microcolony formation, biofilm maturation, and dispersion. And in each step, bacteria may recruit different components and molecules, including flagella, type 4 pili, DNA, and exopulse. As in the cartoon, you could see, first they get attached in the in the wound bed. Then it forms a small core by itself. It comes microcolonies. Then the extracellular matrix is formed, and then it matures. And just like a flower disperses its seeds and pollens, this matured biofilm disperses the daughter cysts, as they may call it, and they form the free-floating plankton. They wherever they settle down, they create new colonies. This is how it goes. The bacteria are protected, and in this, the important to note is these bacteria are protected in biofilm. The ointments which you apply, the topical ointments you apply, they don't attack the biofilm because they develop, there's antibacterial depletions there. The antibiotic ointments which you are going to apply, they have very slow penetration because it's biofilms. There's a stress response and more formation of these cells. There's altered microenvironment, and sometimes, as the pink light indicates, there are persisters which go on and on and on. This is a stage of biofilm formation, as I already told you. First is attachment, second is growth, third is maturation and detachment. Small 3-4 small harmless bacteria, they clock together, they form a microcolony, which forms a matrix, the EPS. Then it grows bigger, it forms a secondary bacterial species. Then it goes still bigger, it matures, and then detaches and produces daughter cysts, which go and attach in some other places. It's a vicious cycle as you go on. What are the implications of biofilms? Biofilms, they cause delayed wound healing. Resultant morbidity is there due to delayed wound healing. There's financial burden because wound is not going to heal at all. Patient will have to pay heavy. You will keep on coming for testing again and again. Persistent wound infections will be there. The risk of overt infection is can occur anytime. They contribute to antimicrobial resistance locally and systematically, and increase the risk of adverse or tissue toxic effects caused by topical agents. This is how it sits prettily and firmly is microfilm. The biofilm protects bacteria from biocide additions. Planktonic counts do not correlate with biofilms. This is very important. Complex community of microorganisms, they grow, and microbiological corrosion happens is safely embedded from your topical antibiotic, antiseptic creams and other things. So this is a pathophysiology, it's a very complex, busy slide, but I just read the small important points. The initial platinum infection occurs, environmental stressors and the immune response is altered, genetic changes occur in the phase variation, adaptive mutation, selection for and the dominance of biofilm capable phenotypes occur, production of EPS, then it goes on and on, becomes an antibiotic resistance occurs and becomes a chronic infection and poor wound healing. So this is how biofilm, this is the timeline for the wound bed. First it attaches, it takes within minutes it attaches itself. It grows and forms a microcolony within minutes to hours, and days to weeks it detaches and forms fresh colonies. This is how it goes. And planktonic bacteria, which from the atmosphere, they attach within minutes and become more tolerant to antibiotics, antiseptics, and disinfectants within 6 to 12 hours. Biofilm can develop within 2 to 4 days, depending on species and growth conditions. And even if you debride this biofilm, a mature biofilm can reform within 24 hours stat. A chronic inflammatory response is not successful in removing biofilm, and it protects microorganisms and increases exudate protection, which forms the source of nutrition that helps to perpetuate the biofilm. And this article is from the Diabetic Food Journal 2016, as late as 2016. So this is a vicious cycle of which I was talking about. The immune feedback loop is there. The immune disorder happens, prolonged inflammation, excessive tissue and cell leakage occurs. It goes on and on and on, and wound becomes a chronic one. Biofilms, they are an important factor to delay the healing. Over the last few years, biofilms have been categorized as an important factor in most chronic and non-healing skin wounds. This has been constantly in the last few years, last decade, I would say. Biofilms have been reported to be present in 60 to 80%, just see, 80% of the chronic wounds. And the recent meta-analysis confirms they're present in 78% of chronic wounds. Just imagine 78% of the chronic wounds they've got biofilms. 25 million people in US, and more than 7% of its population report non-healing or poorly healing wounds. In UK, 1 to 2% of its population experience a chronic wound in their lifetime, with a huge financial burden to the exchequer, $4 billion per year in the US. It's close to 3% of the healthcare budgets. 3% of the whole total healthcare budgets is due to these biofilms. And you should be able to differentiate between the planktonic and the biofilm phenotypes. Organisms which come from the atmosphere stick onto the wound, or from any elsewhere they come stick onto the wound. They don't cause. There's difference between their phenotype and the biofilm phenotype. As far as virulence is concerned, this planktonic phenotype, they are acute and they have an acute aggressive course, whereas the biofilm, it has a chronic disease. The host inflammatory response is high and sudden in the planktonic phenotype, whereas it's mild and persistent. It's really chronic in a biofilm phenotype. The risk for antibiotic resistance is moderate in the planktonic type, and it is very high in the biofilm type. Spread of the disease of the memory resistance also is disseminating in the planktonic. The infection spreads very fast to the surrounding tissues, whereas in biofilm it's sessile. It remains localized to the ulcer area and only the ulcer area. And the EPS, extracellular substance, there's no EPS in planktonic phenotype, whereas it is present in the biofilm. Metabolic activity of plankton is very high, whereas in biofilm it's very low. The species count also, usually in the planktonic phenotype, it's monospecies or polyspecies, whereas in biofilm it's always a polyspecies, And it will be interesting to see that biofilms exist in other places also. For many years, biofilms are known to exist in the dental plaques. Its presence has been reported on endocardium, producing the so-called subacute endocarditis, which we have been studying for so long, and so it's great thing we have been studying about this. Urinary tract mucosa is present, nasal and sinus epithelium and pulmonary tissue also is present. More recently, biofilms have been found in healed surgical wounds, sutures, implants, and IV catheters, which can be contaminated at the time of insertion or as a result of hematologic seeding from the colonized tissue. And once it happens in the implant, it's done. It goes on and on, and if it goes out of your hand, unless you change the implant, it won't work. It will die ultimately. And the relationship between biofilm and the host will depend on the location and the bacterial composition of the biofilm. For example, in the GI mucosa, it has a common cell behavior, surprisingly, these biofilms, while in the lungs and respiratory tract mucosa, a pathogenic behavior is seen as far as biofilm is concerned. This difference is thought to be due to the host's capacity to coexist and or eradicate the biofilm. Biofilms occur even in agriculture, even ponds, you can see these biofilms. Everywhere you can see, but this has come to life as a human only now. And why are biofilms are so difficult to manage? Because the chronic and long-term infections are being caused by them. They are resistant to host defenses such as phagocytosis and killing. They are difficult to diagnose, frequently recalcitrant to antibiotic treatment, and they are difficult to treat. Only cure may be removal of the biofilms. This article is as late as 2017, one report regular. So the biofilm microdiversity of occurs as high as 42%, Pseudomonas aeruginosa is for 23%, Klebsiella oxidorsa for about the 11%, Klebsiella pneumonia for about 9%, Proteus vulgaris for 5%, Acinetobacter for 5%, Proteus mirabilis 2%, and Morganella morgani for 1%. Gram-positive bacteria, few Staphylococcus and Streptococcus species are available. Their biofilms are tough to treat. They are notoriously resistant to antibiotics, making them frustrating to treat, particularly in the implanted devices. EPS shows the diffusion of antibiotics, but eventually enough antibiotic may accumulate and kill the pathogens, but EPS slows down the effect of the antibiotic and allows the bacteria within the biofilm to prepare. Within the biofilm, the constant bacteria construct a hypoxic and nutrient-deprived microenvironment that slows the bacterial division, and as a result, blunt the effect of antibiotics. That's very important. In the biofilm, It's hypoxic inside the biofilm, and its the nutrients are derived, so they are very much less in the biofilm, and they blunt the effect of antibiotics. Biofilm bacteria, as a result, increase the population of slow-growing persisters, particularly hardy individual bacteria that resist the antibiotics. The basic criteria as proposed by Pasak and Singh are: the bacteria are attached to the particular surface, number one criteria. Number two, when examined, bacteria are organized into groups surrounded by the EPS. EPS is a very important concept of biofilms. The infection is isolated to a particular area. They don't spread to the body or to other areas. The infection is difficult to treat with antibiotics, despite significant eradication, even when in the planktic form. The World Biofilm Seminar in the 2012, the clinical diagnostic criteria of biofilm infection, it laid down the following rules. The ulcers should be pale and edema wound bed, fragile granulation tissue, large amount of yellow exudate, necrotic and rotting tissue, wound pain will be there, and characteristic pungent smell. This article is as late as 2019 from the Chinese Medical Journal. And the wound infection versus biofilm, how do you distinguish? For the wound infection, abdominal granulation tissue occurs, wound breakdown and enlargement of the wound occurs, changes in color of the wound bed occurs regularly in the wound infection. There's increasing inflammatory signs and abscess formation, increasing pain, ward and exudate, and patient may have systemic side effects like fever and local lymphadenopathy. Whereas in the biofilm infection, it's recalcitrant treatment with antibiotics and antiseptics. There's a delayed healing, current infection and exacerbation occurs, excessive wound exudate occurs, and there's low-level chronic inflammation and erythema. The guidelines on biofilms, the European Society of Clinical Microbiology and Infectious Disease Study Group, they give the use of scanning electron microscopy, SEM, scanning electron microscopy, and confocal laser scanning microscopy. They are reliable diagnostic techniques as far as microfilms are concerned. The SEM can identify biofilms in wounds that show no evidence of acute infection. The newer methods to diagnose bacterial film mass, the polymerase chain reactions, PCR can be used, fluorescence in situ hybridization, and the denaturing gradient gel electrophoresis. And all these four show beautifully the 3D electron microscopy view of these biofilms. You can see how beautifully they organize themselves with all the water channels and bacteria. The green ones are probably the Pseudomonas. They have their own life there, colonized, will wall between the outer external environment and go on and on safely from other antibiotics and antiseptic creams which you can apply. And they go on persisting also, which is a real hallmark of this chronic infection. It looks so beautiful, these pictures, but they are so pathological. It gives lots of. Once it's a chronic, there is static healing, moderate improvement with repeated rounds of oral antibiotics, then you should suspect a biofilm. You reduce biofilm burden, debridement should be done, and vigorous cleansing should be done thoroughly. You should prevent recontamination with microorganisms and barrier dressing, and suppress biofilm reformation. Sequential topical antibiotics should be applied. And reassess healing. If not, it's healed, go back, reduce biofilm burden, debridement, vigorous cleansing. Prevent decontamination, etc. They should go out for this should be continued till the wound is healed. And there are mainly 4 methods by which you can treat a biofilm. The one is the chemical method. You can use antibiotics. You can use honey. In fact, the Manuka honey is being used is very costly, not practical to use it here in our Indian settings. And the traditional Chinese medicines can be used. Even in India, they got our own traditional Indian medicines for biofilm. They can use as chemical methods to ablate the biofilm. The new novel preparations will be gallium, phage therapy, lactoferrin, and hyperbaric oxygen therapy can be tried in some. Maggot debridement, a good old technique, which goes in still there's available, but not being used presently by many people. It's called biotherapy. And again, mechanical methods, you can use a sharp debridement and hydrosurgery. You can give negative pressure wound therapy can be given, and you can ablate the wounds with ultrasound. These are other techniques. Just debridement alone is not enough to go away with the biofilms. This study shows very clearly about that. The study done in 2012. When you debride the wound on Monday, thorough sharp development done on Monday, right on Thursday and Friday, wound reforms again, just 3 to 4 days. If you apply a topical anti-biofilm, it takes a little longer. By next Monday, biofilm is again. Only when you go for a topical antibiotic, which really works on the biofilms, it goes for some more time. This is what happens. And the biofilm-based wound care, you have selective biocides. Cadexomer iodine is a very good drug which selectively kills the biofilm bacteria and the antifilm agents like galactoferrin, xylitol, fernosol, and some surfactants like polaxamer can be used. Fatty acid gel. It should be a multiple concurrent strategies to cure the biofilm. The other molecule solutions for biofilms are also being tried nowadays. Nothing has been tried, proved particularly. They are very costly also. Pheronone is there, is a substance structurally similar to the marine algae, effective against Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Patulin is a molecule found in penicillium extract, effective against Pseudomonas aeruginosa again. Farnesol, produced by C. albicans, effective against Salmonella aureus. Urusolic acid is a natural plant extract against Pseudomonas aeruginosa and E. coli. Staphylococcal accessory regulator is one which is slowly coming up in the of recent time. Ribonucleic acid 3 inhibiting peptides, RIP, and D-amino acids are promising new interventions. They'll be just on the way. They're trying about it. But in India, for the first time in India, technologically advanced cadexomer iodine is available. It was approved by the DCGI in March 5th of 2018. It's also US FDA approved also. It is studied in over 11,000 patients in more than 19 clinical trials in 9 countries. We'll see how this cadexomer really helps in treating biofilms. Cadexomer iodine is a product contents. It has polaxamer, which is mainly surfactant. It cleans wound and breaks the biofilm. Cadexomer, it absorbs the exudate and prevents biofilm formation. Iodine, the well-known antiseptic, which is a broad-spectrum antimicrobial. Polaxamer is a surfactant. It's a non-ionic surfactant. It's hydrophilic, which means it's water-soluble. It's non-cytotoxic and safe. It softens and moisturizes and removes the cellular debris, which is very important in biofilm because it's full of cellular debris. And unless you clean the debris, it's not going to heal. It disrupts the biofilms, potentiates action of antibacterial agents. It's been approved by US FDA and the UK-based medicine and healthcare products regulatory agency for use. Polaxamer is one of the content in the cadexomer ointment. And cadexomer iodine is many people are a bit stressed to use powder iodine for routine wound dressings. Even I had that feeling. Powder iodine is suitable for surface cleaning and all. But to use it on wounds, it has got its own irritant properties. Iodine is very irritant. Powder is made better, but there's a difference between these two. Cadexomer iodine is the iodosorb, whereas powder iodine is iodophore. Iodosorb is iodine is absorbed that it absorbs the exudate and particulates or matter from the surface of granitic wounds. And as the dressing becomes moist, iodine is released slowly. We'll see how it's done in the next slide. It's a dual effect of cleansing the wound and exerting a bactericidal action. Both are done by this cadexomer iodine. It causes an acceleration of the healing process, which is very important in chronic wounds by increasing the epidermal regeneration and epithelialization. This is not found with powder iodine. This causes acceleration of the healing process in chronic wounds by increasing the epidermal regeneration and epithelialization. Powder iodine is an iodophore. Iodophores are preparations made by mixing iodine with the solubilizing agent like powder iodine. It does not absorb the exudate. It's more suitable for acute wounds, whereas it's excellent as a surface disinfectant, but they're more toxic than cadexomer when used for dressings. This you should remember. And the technology used in slow and sustained release of cadexomer iodine is really very nice. It's called as a smart bead technology. It's uniquely formulated 3D lattice microspherical hydrophilic and biodegradable polysaccharide beads with 0.9% elemental iodine. The diameter of each bead is just 0.1 to 0.3 millimeter. Iodine is physically bound to beads as matrix and released only when required. This is another beauty of this. Controlled release of iodine prevents accumulation, thereby minimizing complications. So iodine only when it's allowed to concentrate in a solution, it becomes more toxic. Whereas controlled release of iodine is not that. It prevents accumulation, thereby minimizing the complications. So this smart bit technology is much forward than the other usual dressings. Cadexamer iodine action against biofilm. Cadexamer microbit directly dehydrates and destroys the biofilm structure, and slow iodine release kills bacteria and persistent cells within the biofilm matrix and prevents its reformation. The absorptive property of the cadexamer provides desloughing action against bacteria and biofilm by promoting autolytic debridement. So what you need to know, it absorbs, there's desloughing happens, and the bacteria also get killed. The EPS gets dehydrated, which are very essential for, because other drugs were not able to do the same. They got defeated in the war, in this war. Whereas cadexamer, it crowns the glory of winning over the biofilm. This is how the technology is being used here. And cadexamer iodine, it desloughing action. It cleans the wound bed from cellular debris and bacteria. It does exudate control. It absorbs the exudate not less than 2.5 ml per gram. It controls the exudate, which is an important essential part of once the EPS gets dehydrated, the biofilm dies off slowly. And there's sustained antimicrobial action, sustained up to 72 hours. One single application, the action sustained up to 72 hours, which prevents the reformation of the biofilm. Again, we've seen biofilm of reformation occurs after 2 days, but 72 hours, it really prevents further formation of biofilm, and it retains moisture and accelerates healing. The all these things contribute to the success of the cadexamer iodine ointment preparations. And many of the wound groups, which I told you initially, I told you the Infectious Society of America, short-term use in addition to debridement and chronic infected wounds is very useful. AAWC recommends in venous leg ulcers, the European guidelines, the wound American guidelines, and the Japanese guidelines, all of them recommends for managing wound infections, recommends an adjunctive therapy for diabetic foot infections. Everything, they are all recommend. Of late, has come a very good way to prevent the biofilms and treatment of biofilms. So, cadexamer iodine against biofilms. This is the original article, effect on total microbial load and community conversion with the 2 versus 6 week topical cadexamer iodine for treating chronic biofilm infections in the diabetic foot ulcers. Non-healing diabetic foot ulcers, now total numbering 18 patients were enrolled in the study, randomized to 2 or 6 week treatment. The pre and post-treatment tissue biopsy were obtained. The DNA sequencing and quantitating RT-PCR determined microbial load. Scanning electron microscopy confirmed biofilm. This is how they go about the study. And cadexamer microorganisms under dense extracellular polymeric substance confirmed the presence of biofilm. And cadexamer iodine resulted in microbial load reduction about 17% of the DFU patients with chronic biofilm infections. This is a great success story of cadexamer. And effect of cadexamer iodine on the microbial and load and diversity of chronic non-healing diabetic foot ulcers completed by biofilm. This is another study by Malone and al. Is to evaluate whether topical antimicrobial cadexamer iodine could reduce microbial load of chronic non-healing diabetic foot ulcers complicated by biofilm in vivo. Study patients, 17 patients with chronic diabetic foot ulcer. Treatment period is 1 week, total of 3 applications. And the study assessments were primary, there was reduction in the microbial load, secondary wound proteases, and the pre-post-treatment were good. 64.7% of the patients showed significant reduction in the mean microbial load post-treatment with cadexamer iodine. 47% of the patients showed reduction in the wound proteases levels following 7 days application of cadexamer. This shows beautifully. So the proven efficacy of cadexamer iodine against bacterial biofilm in the wound. This study has compared the various topical preparations, compared the efficacy of cadexamer iodine with other dressings against Pseudomonas aeruginosa and Staph aureus biofilm models. As you could see, the cadexamer iodine was able to, there's a reduction of up to 90%. The mean log 10 reduction in the P aeruginosa biofilm 24-hour treatment is much less with supplemented hydrofiber silver, as well as polyhexamethylene biguanide and octinidine. All these show very low levels. All these show very low levels. Cadexamer iodine is way ahead above much superior to the other agents. Cadaxamar iodine showed superior efficacy over others against mature biofilms with mean log reduction of more than 9 after 24 hours treatment. Just 24-hour treatment was sufficient to reduce the biofilm. So assessment of cadaxamar iodine against staph aureus biofilm in vivo and in vitro using confocal laser scanning microscopy is to examine the influence of cadaxamar iodine against glycocalyx production of some SRES isolated from furuncle lesions in the cut wounds. 0.75 grams of CA were the topically applied at 8, 24, 48 hours after bacterial inoculation. The biopsy specimens were obtained from the skin lesions at 54 hours after bacterial inoculation. Biopsy specimens were also obtained from skin lesions of the untreated control group. And what we are able to see is stunning. Cadaxamar iodine is a promising treatment to clear Staph aureus cells within the biofilm from the skin lesions of exudative infectious wounds and prevent wound exacerbation. So we'll just finish off with another case discussion. 2 other cases are there. This is the case one is infected post-amputation wound. Case presentation is a 64-year-old male with type 2 diabetes mellitus, recurring right plantar first metatarsal head ulceration for 8 weeks, surrounding erythema with febrile tachycardia was there. The tissue and bone cultures showed polymicrobial infections with dysgalactaceae and algalactaceae, Staph aureus, and anaerobes. Treatment, metronidazole IV and ciprofloxacin due to penicillin allergy was given to this patient. Amputation was done. A halax amputation with the resection of bone down to the middle of the proximal flanks was done. The post-amputation wound characteristic was 4 weeks later, purulent discharge, peri-wound macerated, biopsy showed presence of biofilm. What do you do now? The treatment given was debridement thoroughly, followed by cleansing and the 15-minute dwell using chlorhexidine and cetrimide dressing with cadaxamar iodine every 2 days with the oral linezolid. After 8 weeks, wound is beautifully healing. After 12 weeks, it's completely healed. So multimodal approach was required, including oral antibiotic therapy, repeated debridement, cleansing, and soaking. Use of cadaxamar iodine showed improvement wound characteristics by 8 weeks. And this is another study following 6 weeks application of cadaxamar iodine, 11 weeks from the baseline. This is case number 2, 14 weeks, but it's almost healed. And case number 3 is a non-healing, painful, traumatic wound. It's a 67-year-old female patient presented with a traumatic wound on the gate region of the left leg. Wound characteristics were at the baseline. Wound measured 3.8 to 2.1 centimeter with thick fibrous slough and X-ray. You could see the slough there. It's a common sight which you see usually in all our clinics with in the dressings. We are able to see this thick fibrous slough and just try to debride it in the apply some ointment and go off. But wound edges showed signs of edema, no signs of infection. This is very important. Nonetheless, wound failed to heal, hence presence of biofilm was suspected. Previous treatment, sharp debridement followed by hydrogel dressings. The dressing changes were performed 3 times weekly. After 4 weeks, the wound had failed to progress, was still covered with a tenacious layer of slough and necrotic tissue, which is a classical biofilm presentation. The revised treatment plan, cadaxamar iodine applied twice weekly, was selected to reduce the bioburden. And 6 days after baseline, see how beautiful the wound is healing. 26 days from baseline, it's red and healthy and granulating. So cadaxamar iodine used for 1 week. Patient reported pain reduction due to resolution of clinical infection, and fibrous slough was easier and less painful to remove also. This is question number 4, dressing with cadaxamar iodine. After the first dressing, it is like this. Second dressing after a week, it's now improved great a lot. So it's another case, non-healing exuding wound. Is a 55-year-old diabetic male. HbA1c was 11.5, presented with a non-healing foot ulcer. The previous treatment treated with silver hydrogel dressings with no improvement. Reverse treatment plan, debridement followed by cadaxamar iodine dressing was done. And post-treatment after 3 dressings, 12 days, significant reduction in the slough X-rate was there. After 6th dressing, 26 days, the improved conditions. You can see gradually it improves. On the last picture, red and granulating, beautiful picture is seen. So this is another case number 6. The case presentation is 52-year-old male presenting with exuding wound, lot of pus and slough there, wound with extensive slough and a chronic infection. Received with cadaxamar iodine. Day 8, there's reduced slough, and day 21, improved granulation with reduced wound size was observed. So to summarize all these things, biofilm is a major concern in healing wounds. We should remember this. This is a new concept that's come up. We all know about it. We should put it to practice. And biofilm in wounds are difficult to diagnose. Very true. treat, and frequently resistant to antibiotic treatment is well known. Debridement alone would be insufficient to manage biofilms in the wounds. It's very, very important. You debride it, it occurs again the third or the fourth day, slowly it starts forming again. Use of anti-biofilm agents and selective biocides like cadexomere iodine showed promising results, which is it is a must distinct from the usually used powder iodine because it's safe to use. It improves wound healing also. And cadexomere iodine is approved by DCGI for use in wet wounds in India. And the literature supports cadexomere iodine use in wound complicated with biofilm. So that's the end of my talk. I thank you all for the patient listening, and I'm here ready to take the questions. Thank you so much.
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Sekhar, for providing us a wonderful talk on the biofilm. Of course, we know biofilm is always plays a vital role in healing the wounds. So now I just request open the session. If any doctors having any queries, you can just unmute and ask. I think JB Chemicals, as we discussed about the cadexomere iodine, the higher version of the powdered iodine, one of the beautiful brand, I think major doctors are using already, and they got good success. So whenever you think of cadexomere iodine, it's always available Kedomar. I think a majority of the comments I could able to see in my chat box regarding the appreciation of the presentation or the way you are try to brief us. That's a advantage of the senior doctors, where you can try to brief your personal experience also.
Oh,
so anybody having any queries, you can just unmute, or you can in a chat box, so we can share with that. Sir, before that, I received one or two questions which I just share with you. First is that Dr. Manjunath is asking, any specific diagnostic test or investigations you recommend for diagnosis of biofilm?
No, I use what the clinical judgment. I don't go for electron study and all. What the mind does not know, the eyes do not see. You know biofilm going to develop. You keep your eyes and open for you. You assess it daily, clinically when patient comes for dressing. If it's going to stagnate for a long time, it's not showing any improvement. There's a dull film of slough forming over the wound, and it's not spreading outside also. Just droplets the same area. It's classical of biofilm. You start reading it, and that's the way it goes. And my personal experience so good. I've treated many patients with chronic ulcers, traumatic obese patients with diabetics. Once this is formed, you thoroughly sharp dissection of all the slough, remove it, apply cadexomere, so it heals so beautifully. And maximum it can go up to 3 months. It can be used very safely. Studies show that can be used continuously. That may not be possible. Just within a month or so, patient may heal it. But maximum number of days which can be used, the studies have shown up to 3 months it can be used very safely.
Thank you, doctor. Just let me brief you about the Kedomar. Kedomar is a brand launched by JB Chemicals in last 1 year back, which is giving a wonderful result on specifically on the exudates. Kedomar comes in a small microbits. It absorbs the exudates and releases the iodine. Due to that, slow sustain or release of iodine, cytotoxicity will be very, very minimum for the patient, and 0.25 ml of the exudates will be absorbed by 1 gram of cadexomere iodine. And the best advantage of the brand is that it contains poloxamer surfactant, as we discussed, which auto debridement will be there. So that could be an advantage of the using Kedomar, doctor. There's one more question. Any differences you see in diabetic foot ulcers, non-diabetic foot ulcer complicated with biofilm?
Biofilm is the same wherever it is, and diabetes will have to put extra cautious, because unless you improve the glucose control, it's not going to heal at all. And this biofilm is a separate entity. It's not bothered about anything. It's bothered. Yes, it exists in a small cavity all by itself. It lives in a world by itself. Nothing is actually it's not bothered about thing. Nothing can approach it also. But these ointments and solutions, and you should take all the extra precautions to keep the sugar under control. It's very important in such patients.
Dr. Muralidhar Dindigal has commented, excellent presentation, and for this, kudos to JB Chemicals, and also Dr. Muthu Venkatan has recommended excellent presentation.
Muthu Vendan, yeah.
Yes. Muthu Venkat, I might be your doctor, your colleagues. So I request any audience having any queries, you can just chat box or unmute and ask.
I'm seeing Kumaran sir, senior practitioner, senior consultant from Apollo Hospitals. Sir, very nice of you to be here and listen to my talk, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
This was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you, sir.
With the ulcers, I'm not very much aware of this concept called biofilm, and you have made very clear that biofilm is an important parcel of chronic and non-healing ulcers, and they need to be faced with certain procedures like this, using this cadexomere iodine.
Yes, sir.
Sekhar,
So, Madhi, good evening. How do you do?
This is Madhi from Pondicherry.
Okay, yes, please.
I just logged in, and this is very, very nice presentation, Shekhar.
Thank you, Madhi.
Though
Thank
it
you
is
so much.
not belonging to my specialty,
Okay.
this presentation was so nice and exhaustive
Yeah.
presentation. And I would like to ask some questions.
Please.
So this, you have described this biofilm, okay, in a surgeon's point of view, a surgical specialty. Wound
Yes.
healing is a surgical specialty. I would like to know whether the GPs can have patients with chronic wound healing, and what's your experience?
Madhi,
Number
I
one.
am a general practitioner and I treat all kinds of. Once the infection goes out of hand, I usually refer to a general surgeon.
Okay. Yes, it's
here-
your personal experience. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I used Kadax in many of my patients with very good effect. I'm seeing a lot of patients with diabetes. Many patients with diabetes I'm seeing. They come with diabetic foot ulcers and many even trauma. I'm situated in the area, in the village area. There are 78 bills in and around this area. They come to me for first aid. I get a lot of patients with the wounds, chronic wounds. Everybody comes here. And when you attend on them, you by experience once you think it's not out of our hands, then you refer the patient to your surgeon. That's what.
Okay. Then
So first I commented was wound healing is not a specialist. Only now it became a special subject. Everybody who was treated in the wound was the wound specialist. A GP treated wounds, and only in the past 3-4 decades, wound groups have started appearing from all over the world. And they take the specialist opinion of treatment of the wounds. Otherwise, right from the start of the mankind, it's not that only. There's a saying called, I only dress the wound and God heals it. Right from those days, people just dress it and forget about it. That's what it goes.
okay. This is my personal view. First, I thought that the biofilm. On hearing biofilm, I thought that you will be describing something, a bio model to heal the wound.
Okay.
But on listening to your speech, I think it is so different.
Yeah.
You are describing a pathological process.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that for wound healing, you will be preparing some
Okay.
what is placentrix? I think in our days we used to.
Yes. So many things are there. Yes.
So some wound some skin grafting like that you will be telling. I thought like that.
Okay.
But things were so different, and it led to so a different diversion.
Yes.
So I actually knew something about biofilm.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shekhar.
Thank you, Madhi. Thank you for logging.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me clear, Dr. Maleswamy, if you remember, like earlier we were using tincture iodine, but the burning sensation was there. Then we started doing powdered iodine. No doubt, technology has placed a vital role in our day-to-day life, not only in the medical but even in personal life also. Now we are coming with Kadaxamar iodine. If I'm not wrong, I think majority of the patients first will go to the general practitioners only for any kind of wounds. Then we refer for that. Today also we use powdered iodine or the silver profiles available in the market. Silver profiles are good. I'm not denying, but they are good at burning. Whenever we can face any kind of burning wounds like that, we can prefer silver. But Kadaxamar iodine, first time you're launching in India, which is having a 70 of second dressing. We recommend up to 3 days once dressing. Wherever we do, what happened whenever we use any kind of antiseptic in the market, it is having the efficacy up to 12 hours to 14 hours, max to max. Post that, the efficacy of the molecule will be degraded. Then again, the bacteria will be started and it will be doubled, and the biofilm will be created. Again, second time patient comes, again we need to go for the debridement. So that is what we have avoided here. That's why we included poloxamer surfactant, which are to do the debridement.
And it's an iodo-SAR, but not an iodo-4, as I told you. The difference between these two. And here it stands apart from the commonly used. I thought it was only powdered iodine only. No, it's different. This is an iodo-SAR, but not an iodo-4. Yes.
But definitely I request Dr. Maleswamy, please try Kadomar. It's available in Pondicherry also. My colleagues on my marketing team.
He's a pediatrician.
No, I am a pediatrician.
Okay, sir.
Just I
still,
listened to my
ultimate.
colleagues, J.C. Segar.
Yes, yes,
He
yes.
used to come daily in our WhatsApp.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Right, we have complete a wound basket. Ultimately, Cadoxum is the one brand that we have. Even we are coming, of course, always we have Metrogil M also we have launched. Specifically, we seen in the market that Miprizin has been used widely in the market. But now we are coming Metronidazole with combination. As you know that Metronidazole always enhance the efficacy of the molecule up to 24 hours. That is the advantage of Metrogil M, sir. So you can try Metrogil M also. So I request any queries. I think Dr.
Can you
Kumaran.
hear?
Yeah, Kumaran sir, please, Kumaran sir.
Two questions to ask us.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Is there any method to prevent the formation of biofilm? Number one.
No, sir. There's no mother. Once it forms, it doesn't be treated, sir. Of course, strict aseptic precautions you may, sir. But even one other bacteria, as I showed the few slides, just 3-4 bacteria enough to form a colonize, and they form their separate wall. Strict aseptic precautions may prevent by a great extent, sir.
Okay, what about those patients who are having sensitivity, iodine sensitivity, who are allergic to iodine? Is there any reports of
Sensitivity is very rare, isn't it, sir? I don't know. For them, Cataxamine may not be useful for them.
right on that?
Try other, you can apply other.
Some people are very sensitive.
Let me introduce one more brand. Of course, thank you for all the doctors for supporting us for Metrogil 200 and 400. As I discussed, technology always plays a vital role. Now we are coming with Metrogil ER also, single dose tablet. Usually we give TAD as a 200 or 400, but due to metallic taste sometimes and gastric irritation, patient may quit the dosage. Now we are coming with single dose tablet Metrogil ER. Below 0% of gastric irritation because it gives release slowly extend release tablet which release only 30 milligram per hour, and 80 to 90% metallic test we could able to reduce it. So rather than giving TAD dose, you can prefer Metrogil ER as a single dose tablet also. Wherever you feel, I think Metrogil on the gold standard and anorexide available in the market even today after 2-3 decades also. So I think thank you. If any queries still, we are open. Any doctors can ask whatever you are feeling difficulties in wound healing. I think senior doctor, Dr. Sekhar also there with us, and even Dr. Kumaran also with us, a senior doctor who can guide us into go ahead better. Because we are the first company who are trying to become as a wound company. Usually whenever see in the market, usually while the mix of products will be there, but we are trying to come back with only complete wound healing. In that we have Anometrogel also. I think most of the anorectal cases we prefer in the market. First time we are coming US FDA approved combinations Anometrogel. Here we are trying to provide lignocaine 4%. Most of the brands comes with the CCB combinations or the steroids combination, but here we are trying to provide completely metronidazole with 1%, lignocaine with 4%, and sucralfate for 7% with the fastest healing doctor. Approved molecule available in the market for any anal rectal cases, specifically for the hemorrhoids, hemorrhectomy, fissures, fistula, and piles, doctor. So always, and with that, always we have Metrogil P, known to all to you from 2 decades available in the market. Specifically now we are coming with 125 gram big tube also. Usually we use in some of the clinics, doctors use the jars available in the market. Believe me, just go and just check it out. Povidone which is available is only 5% in that, but here we are providing 2% of Metrogel and Povidone 10%, and we are completely coming with a Lamy tube. So no wastage of drugs. Usually we take the scalpel in the jars, used in the wound. Again, the same thing we insert in the jar also. Sometimes it may get contaminated. Only we are coming with Lamy tube. So complete wound basket we are trying to launch in the market. In a couple of days, we are coming with newer molecule also. Just I request all the doctors to support us with Kedomar, Metrogil P, Metrogil M, Metrogil ER, and Anometrogil. So I think not much more comments, doctor. No more queries. I think first of all, I'd like to thank all the doctors who have participated in their busy schedule. I think 70-75 doctors has been participated, Dr. Sekhar sir. I think
Yes,
which is a good enough. I think
very good number. Very good.
And I think your talk has been reached to all the 75 doctors. Somehow major doctors may get. I think it's good to know that our pediatricians also join us to understand exactly what about the biofilm also. Whenever
Yes.
they feel, I think they can utilize. And especially thanks, Dr. Sekhar sir, for your wonderful briefing
you.
about the biofilm. And all the doctors who have participated, kindly support our marketing team. Always will be in touch with you, and hope I think we can end up the session.
One more. Hello,
yes,
sir.
Yes, sir. Please.
Solunga. Yes, Madi, please.
Yeah, Dr. Dhananjay here. Hello, sir.
Yes, yes, Dhananjay, please, sir.
Sir, regarding that Metrogyl E, one product is there, 600 mg extended
Yes,
release.
yes, Metrogyl, yes, sir.
That's something you have to tell, sir.
Sir, usually if you see the metronidazole tablet available in the market, gold standard, Anurbisat since a couple of years, we always prefer for 200 and 400. But what happened when our patients go with the metronidazole, it always comes in a metallic taste. Due to that, patients quit the dosage, and always due to immediate release of the metronidazole, gastric irritation might be there for the patient. To avoid all those things, technologically we are coming Metrogyl ER, first time in Indian market. This is 600 mg tablet, doctor, single dose tablet. If you're providing 200 mg as a TID, you can give single tablet. If you're providing 400 mg as a TID, you can give 2 tablets. And believe me, you can give us a stat dose also, 1200 milligram also. Despite of 1200 milligram also, it won't release any gastric irritation for the patient because it releases only 30 milligram per hour. So 24 hours can be taken care. So rather than providing TID, you can prefer to Metrogyl ER, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
And ultimately, just very economical for the patient, just 4 rupees. Even today, antibiotics available in the market is 16, 18 rupees. I think it was quite economical for the patients. So I request all the doctors to kindly support for our JB Chemicals with a complete range of Metrogyl. So still, if any queries, you can. Yes, sir. I think, sir, Sekhar, sir, we can wind up. I think somebody's
Sir,
asking.
thank you, Kumaran, sir. Thank you, Kumaran, sir, for being with me, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madi. Thank you.
Thank you, Shekhar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sekhar, sir.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.